Hey friends, and welcome to this segment that I would like to call our little book Nook. What I want to do here, and what I personally like doing from time to time, is that I will read a book, and typically I get very absorbed in that book, and then I want to pick a deck that I think encapsulates the vibes and the energy of that book. Go a little into detail about the book, why I think the deck is a match, and I think this could be a lot of fun to share. So let's get started. First off, this is a book super new, just in. My partner ordered this for us. This is the Pokecology, an illustrated guide to Pokemon ecology. And this is such a beautiful, lovingly crafted book. I've had a big peruse the last few days, and it is basically if studying Pokemon was a subject in school, this is the book they would give you. So you could learn about all the different Pokemons and how they work, why they are built the way they are built, how the environment plays into their physiology. It is like a cute little nerdy book if you enjoy Pokemon. And this is a very easy pick because, of course, I'm going with the deck of Origin, the Ever Grand Arcana by Roderick Jose Juano. I'm sorry, I'm probably horribly mispronouncing their name. I am sorry about that. But this deck is one of the cutest decks I own. It is full of all, I think it's the 3rd gen Pokemon. Off the top of I should have prepared better, but as you can see, we have a deck full of Pokemon. It's very Rider-Waite-Smith, but I love just how the individual Pokemon actually fit the card with their little personalities, with their lore. Absolutely beautiful. Of course, this is like the fun, easy little pick where I don't really have to explain too much because it is very obvious why I am pairing these two. But I also want to pull a little card, just if the deck can tell me something about the book. If it wants to let me know what perhaps the deck thinks about the book. Just for fun. Oh, okay. We got the 8 of Swords. So what I would say is that a lot of knowledge is trapped within this book, and maybe this knowledge can seem a bit overwhelming. Maybe it is not as all encapsulating, as a study book should be. So we're only getting a partial glimpse into the Pokemon world. But I feel like maybe this is a book that you have to read a couple of times to understand. Maybe going through it just once or just like brushing through it real quick is it's not going to give you as much as if you were to immerse yourself within the book, within the lore. And yeah. Apparently the deck thinks that the book is very almost like closed-minded is what comes to mind for me. And maybe it's just not, giving you all the perspectives you could get, but also that maybe it's a bit overwhelming and you just feel stuck reading it all because you think you get a cute picture book, but there's actually a lot of information in there. Something along those lines. Well, thank you, Deck of Origins. And that was my first little pairing. My next pairing and read is Audition by Katie Kitamura, and I would love to pair this one with the Lubanko Tarot. Now, Audition by Katie Kitamura was one of my vacation reads when I was in Austria. It is a wild ride. It is very performative. Now, the Lubanko Tarot is a deck, to me, that doesn't shy away from uncomfortable imagery. It can be very low-key and understated, and that is contrasted with pictures of BDSM adjacent imagery, with nudity, with almost themes of obsession to me. And Audition also encapsulates all of these themes. Now, like I said, Audition is very performative, and there is Audition Part 1 and Part 2, which I would personally call the play. Also, I suppose, just a warning, spoilers for most of these. I'm trying to be as vague as I can, but also I like to go into the subject matter. So just a fair warning, probably spoilers. Now back to Audition. We follow an aging actress, and she meets a young man who claims to be her son. He can't be her son. It is an established fact that he just can't be. She's also in a relationship that is sort of failing, and she's auditioning for this big play, right? That is part 1. Part 2, I would say, is past the audition and we're in a play now. And the entire atmosphere is switched up in the second part. The first part, we just get her reality, how things are failing. And in the second part, she lives with her husband, partner, and her son in their apartment. And it is played out as if the man who claimed to be her son now is her son. And they all live in this big, like, apartment. And it's, you don't know if the main protagonist is going crazy, if she's imagining or dreaming things, or if they are literally playing out what it would be like if this man was her son. And they all just pretend that this man is now living with them and that is their son. And things just unspool in such an unhinged way, where everyone at the end is like on all fours looking for a person, just sniffing on the floor, spilling things. They like get very animalistic towards the end, until our main protagonist says, like, stop, like, cut, this is it, I don't want to do this anymore. And there are like themes of psychosexuality, there are themes of loss, of family, of structure, of what part have you imagined yourself playing and what part are you actually playing within your life. And I guess these people have literally said, okay, let's rehearse and let's try. Let's just pretend to be a family. It's really wild, and it is well worth a read. It's a fairly short book, and I feel like the Lubanko Tarot encapsulates this kind of wild ride between what's reality, what is a dream state, like where am I still rooted within my life, and like what's real and what isn't. And also kind of like the sexual tension, the obsession that's happening within this book. I think this is a perfect fit, honestly. And everything's like so staged, so unreal. Okay, now let's pull a card. And what does the Lubanko Tarot think about Audition by Katie Kitamura? And we got the Tower. I'm sorry. The Tower is absolutely perfect for this book, because I feel like in this book we're building and building and building and building, and then everything is just getting too heavy, it's getting too much. It's like this eclipse at the end where somebody needs to say something, or otherwise we're all just these animals on the floor, like hurting each other, drinking, wanting to get intimate with each other, and we're supposed to be like a family. Like, it's it's definitely Tower material. I think that is a perfect card for this book. Next up, I got The Seven Husbands of Evelyn, Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This one is absolutely fabulous and very engaging, hard to put down for me. And the tarot I want to pair this book with is the She-Wolf Tarot. I also apologize if you can hear banging recently in my videos. It's because our upstairs neighbors have 2 small children, freshly moved in. Bless them, but it can be challenging. That's off topic. So we got the 7 Husbands of Evelyn, Hugo, and the She-Wolf Tarot. The way these two interact with each other is the themes of femininity for me, of authority, and of finding your confidence and a voice as a female person in just any kind of male-dominated space, but also as a female person who is very much on display at all times. So in this book we have Evelyn, who is being interviewed by a young reporter, and Evelyn is, let's say, like a Marilyn Monroe type of character. She used to be like the bombshell, an actress. Very, very tumultuous life. She, as the title says, had 7 husbands, but at the core, this is a sapphic book. It talks about how Evelyn masked her relationship to another woman, and how lavender marriages were handled. I think this feels a bit voyeuristic. So again, the She-Wolf predominantly features nude female people, and I feel like we have, for one, sort of like the strength, the arrogance, the I deserve this kind of energy that Evelyn brings to the table, but it also has the vulnerability of the journalist who is interviewing Evelyn, who is interwoven into Evelyn's story in a way that we only find out at the end, but there is also a lot of vulnerability coming from her. And also Evelyn is not a very likable person despite her circumstances. Despite me being able to empathize with her, she is still not a good, likable person at the end of the day, but she did what she had to do in order to be where she is today. And I think the book is very interesting. Like I said, it almost feels like you're peeking behind the curtains of some kind of Hollywood starlet's life. And it is so much deeper than you would expect, and so much deeper than the papers made it out to be around the time. And these two just have this female empowerment that's very unapologetic to me. It is, like I said, the nudity in this deck makes me feel like it's the same exposure that Evelyn might have felt, because she's always been kind of reduced to this sexy male fantasy bombshell character. And she sort of mirrors a little bit her husbands, like the male figures in her life, even though she comes to despise most of them. Not all of them, of course, but most of them, because some are just, just abusive assholes. Pardon my French. But she kind of mirrors their behavior in the end in her relationship with her one true love, who happens to be another woman. Good. Let's see what the She-Wolf thinks about the 7 husbands of Evelyn Hugo and what it has to say. Maybe an insight about a character, about a plot point. There's a lot happening in that book. The Two of Wands, we have a journey, and this book is definitely a journey. Let me have a closer look here at the Two of Wands. I absolutely love the more full-figured lady in this book, right? So she's looking back. I feel like this is Evelyn's journey. Evelyn comes from sort of like nothing, kind of borderline abusive family situation. At the age of 17, she uses her first husband to get to Hollywood to escape her life. So she gets introduced to somebody who doesn't look back. She wants to go forward. She has this vision of herself to become a starlet. She wants to be in the limelight, and she will do anything she has to get there. So her first husband is kind of her vehicle to move away from her home and to Hollywood. And I feel like this is the beginning sort of that journey. Though she's looking back, she's like more saying goodbye, because she has this these smoke and mirrors that she wants to dive into. I feel like this tentacle could be like the clasp that Hollywood eventually gets on her, the like kind of ambiguity of where she will end up, what she will choose. She is not yet like this bombshell fantasy. She is just walking away from what is very bad for her, and she utilizes her femininity with her first husband to go towards perhaps greater evil, perhaps a mix of good, bad, and the ugly. And I can really see how this card encapsulates sort of the beginning of Evelyn's journey. Last but certainly not least, I want to talk about Big Swiss by Jen Bigon. I'm so sorry for butchering all of these names. And I want to pair Big Swiss with the Dang Olson Dream Tarot. This is because this book is such a trip, and sometimes I'm at a loss for words, but I certainly like talking about it in general. So Big Swiss is about a lady. She's in her 40s and she lives with an older lady who's in her 60s, and they both live in a decrepit farmhouse. There's bees under the floorboards. Everything's kind of falling apart. They have no heating. They have to have like a perpetual fire going. It's all very everything's falling apart around them. Now, our main protagonist, she transcribes therapy session for a sex therapist. His name is funnily enough. So has one specific client whose nickname is Big Swiss, and Big Swiss is a very tall Swiss lady who has never had an orgasm in her life. She cannot achieve it with others. She cannot achieve it with herself or by herself on her own. She has had a very traumatic experience with a man. We don't have to go into that, but very traumatic. So our main protagonist kind of becomes obsessed with Big Swiss. Our main protagonist also has a history of drug use and abuse, as well as suicidal ideations. She is very matter-of-fact about it, which I actually like. It's not like a big meditation on the subject. It's not like a sob story type thing. It is more of a, well, this is how it is. And I really appreciated that about this book, that it was just like, well, look, I think about ending things from time to time. I used to do drugs. I used to work in a pharmacy. I used to abuse. I was in a relationship, didn't like that relationship. We were like 12 years together, never married, and then I just up and left. So she definitely has emotional baggage, but she's very matter-of-fact about it, and I just really enjoy that. Now, the book itself has the themes of obsession, of kind of losing yourself within another person, of trying to fill a hole with another person. Our main protagonist eventually does meet Big Swiss on accident. She recognizes her by her voice. Both get into this whirlwind relationship with each other. It is very sexual. Big Swiss, we get kind of the sense, wants it to be a bit more satisfying intellectually, while our main protagonist really just wants to feel that hole of intimacy and obsession and love within her. And they're both just so mismatched, but still so obsessed with each other. And of course, everything sort of goes downhill in the end. We learn that Big Swiss is actually married to a man. They want to have a baby. There's this guy who abused Big Swiss who's also playing a part, and our main protagonist is just kind of this vessel, and she fills herself with all of the drama and love and hate, while perhaps she should have just stayed an observer. And I feel like the dang Olson tarot kind of encapsulates. Sorry, that is the puppy. I apologize, we had a little puppy break. The neighbors were being a little bit rambunctious and she got a little upset. Now I kind of lost the plot a little bit. What I want to say, I think, or wanted to say, is that I feel like the characters in this tarot feel like a vessel to me. They feel like the raw emotions of a person. When the flesh suit is stripped away, what is underneath? What are we left with when the flesh is gone and we're just raw emotions and we're just this vessel that's absorbing everything around us? And I think that is very spot on with the themes of Big Swiss. Now let's pull a card, see what the tarot has to say about the book. And we got the Six of Cups. I absolutely think this is a spot-on card for this book because there is a lot of nostalgia going on. Our main protagonist often reminisces about their mother who took her own life, about her past, and the perpetual waiting game of when will it happen. And I think there is a lot for the protagonist to come to grips with her past and how to take the rose-tinted glasses off and put like the reality goggles on. And it is a beautiful card for Big Swiss. There is this kind of the two flowers up here representing our two main protagonists and how they just entangle each other with their passion more than anything else. Whenever they try to learn about each other, the other is just not receptive to whatever one of them is saying, and it just feels like they're really getting swept up in this fantasy of each other, but the reality of each other is just kind of disappointing for either of them, but they don't really want to admit that to each other. I think that is a beautiful card again for this book. Thank you so much for joining me on this little experimental video. I really enjoyed finding decks that fit with my recent reads. I have been doing this for the last 1.5 years or so occasionally, where I just feel so compelled by the story of a book that I want to keep it going. I want to have that energy and vibe with me for just a little longer. So I've been picking tarot decks for these books. And sometimes I do readings for myself with them. Other times, like now, I just pull a couple of cards and try to relate the card to the book, and it's always just like a fun little creative experience. And we'll see if this continues to be a little series as I'm reading more books throughout the year. I would love to do more of this. If you've read any of these and have like different opinions on decks, please do let me know. I would love to hear what you thought of the books, even without deck recommendations. So that's all from me for today. And until then, I'll croak you later. Bye!